We had a
What's
lot
up?
of excitement here. We had a spook from Congress. We were talking badly about Hillary, and she used a scalar weapon, and it sent an EMF burst, and it took out all our cell phones and wiped out our computers. We had to restart, and it created a very interesting bubble on one of the DVDs we were recording. The EMF burst. So we're all puzzled. And
Hey, Marshall.
Hey, Dave.
How you doing?
Well, I've had a quieter morning.
Welcome to 5D event. My assistant, Eric, he is a knowledgeable, great guy. And
Okay.
he will walk you and let him talk about Planet X. He's the
Oh, good.
So we're all good. The audience here, we are streaming with DVD and everything. Go ahead.
Okay.
You're all good.
All right.
What's the latest on Planet? This double sun, they say it's not Planet X. We have Planet X and the wormwood. Is that true?
It's all the same thing. A rose is a rose by any other name.
It's
all the same thing.
It's all the same thing he's saying. Those are bullshit.
I'm getting over a cold, so I hope I don't
We
sound too easily.
It's not a cold. I have information for you. It's a chem flu from spraying in the air.
You know,
Chemtrails.
I was poisoned at Yellowstone by chem flu.
Yep, that was
And it was, and yeah, this is not like I've had flus in the past. Or,
exactly.
you know, this is nasty shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Highly infectious, very nasty, very persistent.
Yep.
Yeah, this is chem flu. Thanks for that, guys.
Yeah, and look up smart dust.
What?
Smart dust. So
Yeah,
just save that. Save that. I'm going to put it here. You can look it later.
Yeah, put it in the chat room there. Chat area.
Okay.
Matter of fact, there's an article on my site about how I was poisoned at Yellowstone. I'll send you the link for that.
Oh, good.
And
I heard the plane first coming and the noises, and then I smelled this pesticide, and I knew that I'd already inhaled once, but I held my breath after that. You know, just smelling it. I stopped breathing and held my breath and went in. But it was enough to get me, but it really hit everybody else worse than me.
yeah, well, this is an article that what they're doing in Yellowstone, and you know, that explains exactly how they're using Yellowstone as a huge distribution mechanism. It's an ionic vortex that comes up from supervolcanoes. And what they found was that they could spray into the vortex, and the vortex then would take a good portion of the spray, lift it up way up into high altitude.
Yep.
And then it would fall back into the jet stream and get carried out for hundreds of miles, as far to the east of Chicago.
Yeah, they first started using the polar vortex, and then they got the idea from the volcano.
Right. Well, you know, this article really kind of lays out how I got poisoned, and yeah, it's really insidious what they're doing. It's like, you see it every day. You test people, like, do you look up and see what's happening? You go, huh?
I'm going to send you some information from other speakers that I know that have the stuff that you take, and it fights that and corrects the DNA and undoes what they're trying to do.
Okay, that's good.
And I shared that yesterday. I'm gonna grab the sheet right now and kick it in, so other people who weren't here yesterday can also write that.
Okay.
And then I want you to think about. Oh, here it is. Okay. While I'm typing it in, please start about your. Please start your speech on Planet X. I'm very interested.
Oh, okay. Are we live now?
Yes, we are. And are we streaming, Dennis? Excellent. So we're gonna send out our own vortex.
Okay. Well, right now with the Planet X system, and I guess let me just start off briefly for those who are new to the topic. What we're talking about is that we live in a binary star system, which is consistent with 90% of the other solar systems in our galaxy that have multiple suns. And back in December, ALMA Observatory in northern Chile posted white papers that they felt that they had observed two objects way out at the furthest edge of our system. One was a super Earth in size, probably about 10 times the size of Earth, and the other was a very old brown dwarf star. And the second was really significant, and it caused them to get under a lot of pressure from Caltech. They launched a huge disinformation attack campaign against them using the Washington Post, Sarah Kaplan. And obviously this was with editorial oversight and permission. So it was really Caltech and the Washington Post suppressing this, and they were able to, through this and probably other means, to force the ALMA Observatory astronomers to withdraw their white papers, not at the speed of the scientific process, but at the speed of the political process. Then shortly after that, Caltech and Mike Brown come forward with their Planet X hypotheses, which they call Planet 9. That's the first thing that you see with people who are going to pervert the topic. They will use invented terms that have no basis in history or fact, like Planet 7X or Planet 9. This is all manipulative. It's designed to bifurcate search engine listings so that when people are trying to learn about this topic, they get shunted off into sidetracks. But still the same, we have a whole new dialogue, because what we're seeing with astronomers is that by saying Planet 9, very few of them really adopted the term. That term actually was coined in approximately 1905 to 1908 by Percival Lowell, our first American astronomer who was pursuing the search for Planet X. But the hypothesis actually predates him, and this was going back to the discovery of Uranus, actually. Uranus was the first planet discovered with a telescope. And after astronomers began observing it, what they saw was a perturbation in the orbit, a zig, if you will, a zigzag, that would indicate that there is a larger object out there that is tugging at the planet every time it is in the proximity. And so the search for Uranus's perturber then led to the discovery of Neptune, not through a telescope, but through mathematics. They were able to so precisely determine the location with the observed perturbations of Uranus that it was a very quick business for John Gall of the Berlin Observatory to swing right onto it, and zip, there's Neptune. They started observing Neptune, and what they found is Neptune also has a perturbation in its orbit. Something's tugging at Neptune. And so the entire pursuit of Planet X really started in Europe, but then early in the 1900s, it moved to America. A wealthy Bostonian by the name of Percival Lowell, at his own expense, built the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is still today operating, and it's a very popular tourist site. And he was looking for Planet X. In fact, he did image Pluto, which was later attributed to be Planet X incorrectly. He did that in 1915, but at the time he didn't think it was a planet. Clyde Tombaugh of the observatory in Flagstaff in 1930 did find Pluto again, determined it to be a planet, and at that time it was designated as Planet X. They felt that it was the perturber of Neptune. However, after Pluto's moon Charon was discovered in the last century, they understood the actual size of Pluto, which is about 60% the size of our own moon. And so Pluto was demoted and to a dwarf planet, and there are a lot of people that are really still upset about that. But the search then continued for Planet X. In other words, Neptune's perturber. Planet X, the only meaning for X is unknown. You know, remember when you were in high school algebra?
What about 10, though? X.
Well, no. X is not 10. Disinformation operatives will tell you X equals 10. They're thinking in Roman numerals. That's disinformation. The minute you hear somebody say X equals 10, you know you're talking to either an idiot or a disinformation operative.
Excellent.
X equals unknown, as in when you were in algebra class,
Right.
your teacher said solve for X.
Right.
Okay? So that's what X means. Nothing more, nothing less. The unknown. And so the search for Planet X continued. There was a tremendous amount of open dialogue and discussion on it. In 1983, the IRAS, Infrared Astronomical Satellite, imaged Planet X. Planet X actually is the Planet X system. What we have is a mini constellation orbiting our sun. It is a small brown dwarf with its own planets and moons. All right. And at the heart of it is a brown dwarf star. Now, a brown dwarf star is a small star. They're incredibly common throughout the galaxy. Very common. Only recently discovered in the last few decades because they're incredibly difficult to observe. And this is because a brown dwarf star has sufficient mass to ignite like our sun did, but not enough mass to maintain what you could call the nuclear furnace. And so our sun is just burning brightly on, and it will continue to do so until it starts going cattywampus and fries us to a crisp. But with a brown dwarf, it's more like a charcoal briquette in your backyard barbecue. You know how you get that briquette white hot and then it just slowly banks off. And if you know barbecue, you know when it's banking off, that's magic time. Okay. Well, same thing with the brown dwarf star. So this one is banked off, which means it's surrounded by a lot of iron dust from when it first ignited. That's what makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to observe in visible light spectrums at a distance. It can only be viewed in infrared. In infrared, because it's putting out so much heat, it sounds out like a sore thumb. Now, the IRAS, was being operated in conjunction between NASA and ESA, but NASA had their hands on the control. And the data was supposed to be shared with Europe and other countries, in general. Well, once the NASA controllers spotted Nemesis, which is the star at the center of the Planet X system, they immediately just announced that they had technical problems with the satellite. They said that the cooling system, because you have to have supercooling for the infrared, had failed. Well, According to retired intelligence officers who've read the case files, nothing such happened. The satellite was operating perfectly. That was just a cover story so that they didn't have to share the data anymore, but would also explain why they were getting signals from the spacecraft. What they did at that point was, once they tracked Nemesis, they exhausted all the onboard navigation fuel for the thrusters so that they could continue to observe, to form a trajectory on the dark star. And after that, there was still a lot of conversation. We've tracked back through the historical records of mainstream media. There was an awful lot of open discussion about us being in a binary star system. I remember it when I was in high school, the Nemesis theory. Carl Sagan wrote the book Comet, which alluded to the same thing. So there was a lot of interest in this, but then the screws started to get tightened down, and there was a U.S. Naval Observatory, the chief astronomer for the U.S. Naval Observatory in Washington, a gentleman by the name of Harrington. Well, I guess he crossed the line for the elites. First off, he published a white paper on the location of Planet X, which was brilliant. Then he appeared in a documentary with Zecharia Sitchin, author of The 12th Planet, who translated the Sumerian texts about Nibiru, which is one of the planets in the Planet X system. And then he had, by his direction, a special telescope constructed, and it was sent to a United States observatory operating in New Zealand for a Planet X sky survey. The survey was conducted. All of the photographs came back, immediately went to NASA, and disappeared, never to be disclosed. And then a few years later, when he was getting ready to prepare an announcement of what was found, he died of a very mysterious cancer in onset, the type of cancer that has actually been documented and used for targeted assassinations. Now, after Harrington died, I believe that was in 1993, the whole topic of Planet X literally just went off a cliff right into a grave. It went dead. And the lid was on. And so professional astronomers understand that, this is a third rail topic. You talk about it, you die. And I believe it was in 1999, there was an accident in the Alps. A Navy jet flew 600 feet below its allowed altitude and at a faster speed, hit a gondola with 20 people going to the Pier de l'Arc Observatory, causing the gondola to fall to the ground and killing all aboard. Now, the official story was that they were maintenance workers and the such at the observatory. No, they were actually deep space astronomers, and they had, the day before that accident, announced that they were going to reveal something of profound importance to the whole world. So there's a real clear pattern of, astronomers who do want to come forward and talk about it being suppressed, and they could lose their careers, if not their lives. As you know, we saw this now replay with the ALMA observatory just this last year, where they made their announcements. And they were suppressed very brutally in the media with Washington Post and so forth. And again, you see this pattern of suppression. So now we have Mike Brown, who calls himself Pluto Killer. He gets a vicarious pleasure out of that. And he's designated it Planet 9 for the reasons I stated before. You pervert the name. earlier, David was going, what about Wormwood? What about this? I have this name. I have that name. I have this other name. Well, that's the point of having a lot of different names.
Mhm.
Nobody knows what is what.
Exactly.
Okay. There's only one historical, proven, relevant title, Planet X. That's it. That's it. Wormwood, Planet X. The destroyer, Hercolobus. Hercolobus, by the way, Hercolobus was the name for Planet X that was given by the Atlanteans.
Mm.
Nibiru is the name that was given by the Sumerians. The destroyer is the name given to it by the ancient Egyptians and Hebrews. Frightener is the name given to it by the ancient Celts. All right?
How about,
There's other names.
there's also Chernobyl. Did you know that? Chernobyl in Russian?
Well, I wouldn't possibly.
Yeah, that's a new one for you.
Okay.
How about, you said the destroyer, right?
Destroyer is the term. Actually, depending on which translation of the Bible you're reading, the term destroyer will be used. Some versions of the Bible use an alternate word for that translation. I find that the more recent versions of the Bible, where there was a very concerted effort to research the etymology of words, those will tend to use the word destroyer. Etymology is very important. That's, when a word first comes into use, what does it mean? I mean, what happens if 100 years from now they're saying, oh yes, when they said groovy baby, they were ordering, a nice brie, okay? No. A good example is the word meek. We've heard the term. The meek shall inherit the earth. Now, when we hear that today, for a lot of people, it's like, doesn't make sense, because if someone is called meek, it's a very, it's not something you want to wear a lapel on, okay? It means you're submissive, you're weak, your character isn't strong, all of this stuff. No, you go back to the 1200. That's when the word meek first came into existence, and the term meek described really wonderful, strong, compassionate, enduring people, and it would be your greatest honor for someone to say, you are meek. But today it's been perverted because this is part of elitist strategy to create confusion and misdirection on the messages that we are getting, from the past, from those that wanted to bring it. So, and for those of you who are interested, just go online to the etymological dictionary. And it's an interesting thing to do, to research all of that. So, moving forward in time, where does that bring us?
Now, so I put in there, I have an American Heritage Dictionary that has an appendix in the back with the word roots, and you look up the word root and you see that it has a family tree, and that's also it's another good tool. I always buy them when I see them in Goodwill stores or wherever. Yeah.
You have to do that. You have to go looking to the past. And it's interesting, some of the nicest finds are encyclopedias that were published in the 50s. They were still good back then.
Yeah, where you could use them for your report. But
yeah.
But now we have Wikipedia. That'll get you an F on your paper.
And with good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen Wikipedia has done more misleading information on the topic of Planet X than anyone else out there.
Yeah.
And they finally just said, yes, Planet X, the hypothesis was created by Percival Lowell. Lowell did not create the hypotheses. He just gave the hypotheses a name. The Europeans were referring to it as the perturber.
Mm-hmm.
And he just said it's Planet X because why Planet X? Why was that term coined? It's a planet we know that exists by virtue of the manner in which it interacts with other planets, but is yet to be observed. All right? And now, there were, in 2008, I mean, I have people all the time say, when am I going to see it with my own two eyes? Now, for those of you out there that are saying, when am I going to see it with my own two eyes? My answer to you is, you're stupid and you deserve to die, because that is a very idiotic question. It is as dumb as a sack of hammers. Ah, is that rubbing you the wrong way, bunkies? The right question is, when will I believe what I see with my own two eyes to be a clear and present danger? That is the right and intelligent question. So why is the other question as dumb as a sack of hammers? It's because when we're all standing out on the street, pointing up at the sky and pooping our collective pants, and we're saying really smart things to each other like, Phyllis, you ever seen anything like that? No, Harry, what do you think? Let's watch CNN. You go to CNN, and what's CNN doing? They're putting on the talking heads who are going, don't worry, it's just an interesting light show. And you know what? People are going to buy that. And it's going to lead them like lemmings off a cliff to their death. Look, the whole bottom line is that what's coming is a tribulation. What the elites have, some folks call it Agenda 21. It's a real simple strategy. How do you kill as many human beings as possible? That's all. It's reduction of numbers. Not a few here, not a few there. It's like, let's cut the human race back to, say, 10% of what's alive right now. Well, how do you do that? The easiest way to attain incredible numbers is to convince people to survive in place. Stay where you are. Because the vast majority of humanity lives along a coastline. And coastlines during the pole shift are going to be devastated. Mile-high tsunamis are going to tear through them like hydraulic sandpaper.
I heard 3 Mile High.
3 Mile High, absolutely. And, you know, think about the movie 2012. All right. Now, let me give you kind of an interesting backstory on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of signals in that film.
Oh, yeah. Emmerich's the man. I mean, as a Planet X researcher, when I saw, you know, they're having conversations in the car in the middle of a magnitude God knows what, I'm going, I want my money back. You know, this is nonsense. It's eye candy. But you get past the eye candy, you go back and watch it another time. And ignore all the graphics and special effects. Actually focus on who's doing what. That director shows you how the elites think and how they operate. Absolutely spot on. He, you know, that's it. You watch it, the emperor has no clothes. He shows you exactly their tactics. Now, here's an interesting thing you might want to know. 2007, we published my book, Planet X Forecast and 2012 Survival Guide. And it was licensed by publishers elsewhere. We had Germany, Japan, Italy, and Netherlands. We did a Spanish edition. Now, the second largest publisher in Japan licensed that edition for the Japanese language. And they came to us in anticipation of selling a lot of copies. It was a sweet deal. It was sweet. And they were connected with Sony, all right? They knew what was coming. You see, when 2012 was originally shot, it was shot around Planet X was the causality. Now, you rent the film and watch the very first few seconds, you'll see Emmerich left in the graphic of Planet X. Okay? This guy was like, a fungu. I'm gonna squeeze it out there between the lines.
Right.
And that was also the reason why you go back into the database, you'll find that the movie was originally scheduled for release when summertime blockbusters are supposed to be released. And it would have been a huge cash cow for Sony, absolutely huge. But they were forced to eliminate the Planet X causality from the film. And that was when they said, it was solar driven. And they changed it. Now, you watch how they began the film, it's jerky.
Yeah. That's
and
a
it jumps
CIA's
from
work.
because it was an after the fact cobbled together. All right?
Yeah.
So there is a huge amount of suppression that goes on. Interesting also with my book, Planet X Forecast, was that in 2010, the Vatican ordered the Italian edition being sold in Italy to be removed from the bookstores and burned.
Please say that again.
In 2010, the Vatican ordered our book, the Italian language edition, to be removed from all of the stores, returned to the distributors, and to be destroyed by fire.
Yes, your book. Huh.
My book.
What
Okay.
was and tell me
And
this.
also anyone else's book on the topic of Planet X, Nibiru, Wormwood, Destroyer, doesn't matter. It was just wholesale. What happened was in 2009 was the very first Planet X symposium in the world. It occurred in Rome. We did have a speaker at the event. And it was a sellout. It was amazing. The fire marshal had to close down ticket sales because they had maxed the room capacity. People literally were standing 3 deep in the back. And it was hugely popular. And the topic of Planet X swept through Italy like a wildfire. The books were just flying off the shelves. We were getting end caps, center aisles. I mean, these are positions in retail where a publisher would sell their child to get that position, So it was doing extremely well. But then the Vatican just came in and, my licensee had just gone to press on a second printing, way ahead of schedule. And when he received a call from the distributor told him that all of the books had been returned, that he did not have the option to take physical possession of the books, that by order of the Vatican, they were burned. And I asked him, I said, "Are you going to fight?" He said, "The Vatican? Are you crazy?" So there it goes. It's that kind of suppression. Again, remember, this is all about keeping people in place.
Mm-hmm.
So what will happen is, and I wrote an article about this on my site, and folks can read that. I think it's, let me go here, and if you want to know exactly how they're going to play this out, then you want to read the article, Michael Brown and Planet Nine, What is the Real Planet X Agenda? I'll send you the link here. And that lays it out, all right? What they're going to do is they are going to Excuse me. I'm getting a disrupted call here. Just stand by.
Yeah, people don't, they're so used to getting attention here and now. They want to be, get through.
Yeah. So, but what I was saying in this article is the way they're going to keep, there's going to be an opportunity for those of you who can see with your own faces and eyes. For example, your audience, I think you're in Los Angeles right now?
Yes, by Los Angeles Airport.
Good. Well, how long can you tread water?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. All right. First off, my advice to you right now is get the hell out of there. Move inland. Okay? Get the hell out of there.
At least 200 feet higher, 200 feet elevation.
No, 2,000 feet.
2,000, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, the safest places, I would guess, are the Indian nations, Four Corners, and
places like that. You want to get,
that have been
our
around
general rule of thumb is you want to be 150 feet from the shoreline, 150 miles from a shoreline, and about 2,500 feet. That's a good rule of thumb. Also, don't locate, near a major fault line. So moving to St. Louis, not a smart idea. You're right on top of a major fault line. There's New Madrid, Cascadia, and San Andrea. And you want to stay away from those. For those of you living in California, you're sitting on a ticking time bomb, the Long Valley caldera. That is a very dangerous one. That's the one. Actually, I'm more worried about Long Valley than Yellowstone. I've been tracking Yellowstone since 2004.
That affects a lot of people because if that and all the active volcanoes are awakened and blow. So,
right. Well, with the problem with Long Valley is it still has its limestone cap. It's a single chamber, and the chamber is expanding. It's not distributing. Yellowstone blew its cap during the last eruption, and it is distributing. So there would be creeping eruptions like you see in Hawaii, a small number of eruptions like Mount St. Helens. Those things will, if it were to have a massive eruption, doesn't matter where you are in the Northern Hemisphere, arrivederci. But the one that's the real problem is going to be Long Valley. That one will pop when it goes. It's going to send ash as far to the east as New Mexico. Some feel as far as Texas. If you're living in California, whatever is going to be enough to cause that to pop is going to cause all kinds of other problems. California is eventually going to turn into an archipelago.
Yes, islands.
Yeah.
California islands.
That's right.
Where's Long Valley located?
Pardon?
San Joaquin Valley is Long Valley?
If you were to draw a line straight up from Los Angeles and then one straight west from Las Vegas, that's about the area right there.
Okay, area.
Las Vegas, it's inland, but that's not where you want to be. Frankly, my feeling is Las Vegas will be the first major city where we see cannibalism.
Wow. It makes sense to me. Good. Well, the tall whites are there.
Yeah, it's water is going to be a horrific problem. Lake Mead, I've been, a few years ago I was there, and Lake Mead is so low, it's staggering. It's not that far off before Boulder Dam is no longer capable of generating power, because the original inlet pipes that feed the turbines, which were built when the dam was built, are just within feet of being uncovered. That's the reason why there's a crash program underway to build a third tunnel underneath those two that goes right to the bottom of the reservoir so that they can ensure a supply of water for Las Vegas. The problem is that when we fly through the tail of the Planet X system, all surface water is going to be polluted. And so that's it. You know, they're going to be in deep kimchi over there. They're not going to have power, and then they're not going to have the water. So it's not a place you want to be. In general, what you do, I do relocation webinars. If you go to my website at yowza.com, you can see a link up at the top that says relocation webinars. And I used to do these as groups, but this year it's really started getting more intense. People have more specific needs. So I just am doing them one-on-one with flexible scheduling so that they get friends and family involved as well. And what I'm telling them in general is you want to find places with soft earth, rolling hills, good water, all right? And you want to be as far away as possible from major cities. This is, you know, a lot of folks will say, well, I found a good area. And I say, yeah, you're close to a major city. And then what will happen is, hey, you know, you go to Safeway and there's nothing on the shelf. People are going to flood out of the cities like locusts, and they're not going to have a meaningful conversation with you. They're going to want what you have, and they think because you live in the country, you got a lot of food. So you really need to keep a distance. That's really important. And, you know, these are the things people need to be aware of. But going back to when you see on CNN and they say it's an interesting light show, nothing to worry about. You know, they're going to probably allude to Shoemaker-Levy 9 because we're going to see multiple objects in the sky, and they're going to say, well, you know, it's just an interesting red comet. That's all. People are going to buy that. People are incredibly naive if that's what they want to hear. I mean, it reminds me of an analogy I use. You know, a housewife is doing the laundry and finds when she's working on her husband's work shirt, there's 5 shades of lipstick. And she confronts him with it, and he says, honey, don't worry. It's not 5 different women. It's just one woman, and she likes 5 different shades of lipstick, but she's not in my life anymore. You're the only one for me. And she goes, okie dokie. All right. As crazy as it sounds, people do cling to the bliss of ignorance like jealous lovers. When they're told, don't worry about it, most people are going to do exactly that because that's what they want to hear. There are going to be a few who are going to say, all right, I'm going to believe my lying eyes. And they're going to bug out. Now, what's the next stage? You know that the door is closed. There's no more window of opportunity to survive. When after a series of increasingly troubling natural events happen, they come back on CNN and they go, folks, sorry that we were in error about that initially. There's new data pouring in. We've reevaluated our models. And yes, we're going to have some of these troubling things, but it's not going to get any worse than this. Trust us. And again, most people are going to do that because that's what they want to hear. When that is said, dying time is near. After that, roads are going to be closed. You can't evacuate. You can't relocate. It's going to be panic and mayhem and a period which I call the rage. This is when everyone's going to wake up to the fact that they've been lied to. They're not necessarily going to wake up to the fact that they participated in being lied to. They're sure not going to say, you know, I was as dumb as a sack of hammers. I brought this on myself. No. They're not going to do that. They're going to be angry, going to raise their fists. I'm a citizen. I'm a patriot. Blah, 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 blah. Now, if you're around for that, when people start making up signs and marching on the federal buildings, here's what you do. You turn yourself 180 degrees in the opposite direction and start running as fast as you can, screaming, "Feet don't fail me now." The reason why is these people are going to learn why our government has been quietly buying up 1.7 billion rounds of hollow point small arms ammunition. And for those of you who are old enough to remember Kent State, this is a time during Vietnam, and the protests were sweeping the country, and it was, frankly, the protests, General Giap didn't win in Vietnam. He won on the streets of America. It was a very brilliant strategy because we were morally bankrupt for what we were doing. So at Kent State, what did they do? They set it up where some provocateurs could trigger off an incident, took a bunch of National Guardsmen. There was no money for training National Guardsmen during Vietnam. They'd show up for their weekend drills, and it was very simple. After the first call, they would go under the trucks, go to sleep, get up, have lunch, go back under the trucks, sleep some more, play some cards. Their sergeant would say, "You boys did a fantastic job this weekend. Go home." That was National Guard training during Vietnam. So they took a bunch of these guys that were no more trained than, puppies, and put M14s in their hand, 30-06 hunting rifles, if you will. And then all it took was for a few agent provocateurs to provoke an incident. Next thing you know, kids are dying. And interestingly enough, several of those who died were not involved in the protests. They were just students going to class who just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time when a 30-06 was flying real far. So it's going to be Kent State logic here, because Kent State was very effective for the government. After that, that was it. There were no more protests. Protest movement died at Kent State, along with all those kids. So that's what they're going to do here. They're going to have another Kent State, except it's not going to be a dozen or so. What will happen is there'll be 2 warnings, and then when nobody disbands, they'll open fire. And there will be hundreds, if not thousands of bodies all over the street. And that will send a chill through everyone that sees it. Okay, protesting may not be the smart thing to do. And from there, it's just going to be grief. And if you're living in cities, you're going to submit or you're going to suffer. So that's the reason why I'm telling people, you got to bust a move. I was living in Santa Cruz County, California for 18 years. I busted a move. I call it busting a move because you got to bust up your life. It's really hard. I talk to people all the time that have spoiler spouses, and they see it. They're doing the study. They're watching the science. They're watching trends. What's happening with Earth changes? How are the dots connecting? And out of love, they want to tell their family and their friends and their spouses what it is, and then just encourage them to do their own homework. They're saying, don't believe me, just look at the facts. And what do they get? It's all bullshit. Nothing going to happen. I don't want to hear about it. And then after that, you fall off the Christmas card list, and you're ostracized. Nobody wants to talk to you at the water fountain at work. I mean, that's all. You're persona non grata. And it's really difficult for these people because how can you do relocation if you don't have the support of family and friends and most importantly, your spouse? Now, in my case, I moved to Sparks, Nevada. That move cost me a marriage of 19 years. No regrets. I'm remarried now, and my new wife is totally into the mission with me. And it's a very refreshing change. And this is something I found, actually, for those of you who are in awareness and you have a spoiler spouse and you feel paralyzed because you can't move, you don't have participation. The universe doesn't want you to survive alone. It wants you to survive with a like-minded other. Bust a move. It's tough. God, is it tough. Oh, God, is it tough.
Does she have a sister?
Huh? Does she have a
sister? Does your new wife have a sister? I'm joking. I'm married. I've been leaving my wife for 17 years.
Well, I was just thinking the sister's in denial.
That's funny.
But, you know, I mean, my wife, Jennifer, she gets the same flack from her family.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's my life. I've been defriended, and that's what same thing for speaking out. I've been talking about Planet X forever. So, you know, and I'm always talking about something crazy, they say, and I'm the crazy one. So, and you know, that's okay with me.
Hey, you know, everyone, this is more about choice. You know, I see people that say, well, God wants everyone to live.
We have some questions in the audience. Do you mind if I turn to the audience?
Sure. Sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me ask me the question.
What does it feel about skeptics like our previous speaker does not attack the
Well, you're going to have to friend me to find out later. Somebody's asking, I have a friend, Patty Broussard. You know Patty?
Yeah.
And do you communicate with her on Skype?
Yeah, Patty and I communicate.
Well, she's saying Planet X is not happening, maybe, and you know, and then Alfred Weber is saying it's happening next year.
Patty Broussard.
Patty.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Oh no, I know it's Patty Greer, not a Patty.
Oh,
Broussard.
I know. I'm friends with Patty too. Patty Greer.
Okay, no, I don't know.
I'm going to set us up for a conversation.
Oh, Alfred Weber?
Yeah.
Hey, he's a PTB shill. Come on. He's a PTB shill. All right?
What does that mean, PTB?
Powers that be. Okay?
Powers that be.
There was a guy, Dazza the cameraman.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Who was out there. Actually, there was a wonderful group on YouTube, 00 Skyview. The original group was totally hammered. It's been resurrected, and I don't think it's the same people at all, and I've said that. Well, this joker, Dazza the cameraman, did that. And the guy that put Dazza on the map was Weber. I have published on that. And just go ahead and go to my site and look for Dazza the cameraman, and you are going to see, you know, Weber's involvement with all of that. So, you know, to me, he's just a PTB shill. You know, for years, I was always just, well, I didn't really want to say what I felt.
Right.
You know, out of hell with it. You know, just call it the way it is.
Yeah.
You want to see about Alfred? Go read my site. It's documented. We took Dazza the cameraman apart, debunked him completely. And that guy is a pure disinformation operative.
I like, you know, I'm friends with everybody, and it's difficult. And I just sit back and I connect people and bring you know, sometimes they get mad at me for bringing these people together. But, you know, if you're interested, we could do a Skype with them, you know, together in the future or whatever, or just, you know, it's up to you. But I'll talk to you.
I don't do panels.
Okay, I understand. What's another question?
Winter, 1 o'clock.
A month ago, NASA found a large planet mass, and they're mathematically, and they couldn't, you know,
Yeah, that's Mike Brown, Caltech,
Mike
Planet
Brown. That's
9.
the link he gave us up ahead.
Yeah,
That was the link he gave us.
And we actually discussed that at length on my site.
Right here.
All right. And
So read that. Michael
Yeah.
Brown and Planet 9.
yeah, I mean, the thing
Yes.
about
Get- yeah.
what they're doing with Planet 9 is
Oh.
they've really indirectly opened the doors. The interesting thing was the astronomers at ALMA in northern Chile.
Okay, so I'll eat it.
They were the first ones since the death of Robert Harrington
Mhm.
to resurface the topic of Planet X from mainstream science. And they were immediately lambasted and harassed and suppressed for that. But it did force a response. And after Caltech and Mike Brown smeared these guys in Chile vis-a-vis the Washington Post, then they turn around and release this Planet 9 theory. And they call it Planet 9. Now, I am starting to see, and we track mainstream media, and we said, God, all the disinformation that comes out of this is amazing. I will tell you something. You said you want to be friends with everybody.
Well, I am friends with
In
everybody.
this topic, we're not talking about rose gardening and knitting. This is a dead topic.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
a death topic, man.
Extinction
Be
level event.
careful who you choose.
Extinction level event.
Yes. And so what they're doing is, to me, I think the guys in Alma are heroes. I love them. I just love them. They had a lot of chutzpah. They went out and ran the gauntlet. Yeah, they got hammered. And it forced Caltech and Mike Brown to, okay, we're going to have to do something. Let's come up with Planet 9. And there was the astronomers in Italy looked at his papers, and they immediately reduced the search area by 50%. And which was something that, Mike Brown at Caltech should have done before he published. But they published in a rush because they had to do something. But, and everything bad is good. Okay? There's something good comes out of it. And what I saw come out of this was that slowly astronomers are starting to talk about Planet X again. And they refer to Caltech and Mike Brown, which is kind of like the pass key to get into the conversation. But then they don't use the term Planet 9. They use the traditional term Planet X. And I'm seeing that, and I think that's absolutely a wonderful thing.
What do you think about the time frame? When do you think it's going to come then? This year, next year?
Well, it's already coming. I
know. I mean, when is it going to start? When will it affect us? When will we have impact or flyby or slingshot or whatever?
Pole shift. He's talking about pole shift.
From what we're seeing and the trends that we're evaluating, we're looking at the second half of this year.
So September.
What's interesting now is we're tracking. Israel was always very quiet about Planet X Nibiru, but now they're publishing in Israel, and what they're saying is this year 5776, which ends in September, and so very well it could be that we see it. What they're finding in the mystic interpretations is that this thing's going to come out, just pop out of nowhere. So things are going to start popping. Now, how soon will it be when we have severe consequences? Well, once we see it come out from behind the sun, it's in conjunction right now. That means it's behind the sun, beyond our orbit, on the opposite side of the sun.
Yeah.
When we see it coming out, that's when it's going to look like red comets in the sky, all right? Mm-hmm. And that's where we're going to be told it's like Shoemaker-Levy. And then they're going to say, don't panic, and they're going to go to the Halley's Comet with people who are buying, comet pills and gas masks, and everyone was hysterical. And so they're going to drag up all that old images about hysterical reaction and, everything to dumb people down. Remember, they just want to keep people on the coastlines. That's it. I mean, it's just that simple. But it's such an awful, horrible thing to consider. People go, I can't believe it. Can't believe it. Oh, my God. That's what they really want to do. Well, that's what they really want to do. Wake up and smell the coffee, folks.
They can't save
Especially,
everybody, right?
Huh?
They cannot save everybody.
They can't save everybody, David is saying.
No, it's not about saving everybody. It's about killing as many people. Look, you guys got to, this is not about saving people.
Right.
All right?
They don't want to save us.
Let's start with the Bible. Everybody says God wants everybody to save everyone's lives. God wants to save your soul, not your life. Let's get straight from there. Now, let's move forward, okay? The elites control the planet. Think about it. 8 people have as much combined wealth as the bottom 3.5 billion.
Right.
Okay? They want to maintain that control. And it is about a matter of resources. Now, it's not about a matter of resources to save people during the worst of the tribulation. During the worst of the tribulation, they want people to die. Go look on Wikipedia for the Georgia Guidestones.
I knew you were getting to that.
10 Commandments for the 21st century. And the first one in 8 different languages,
right.
Keep the population under 500 million. Now, what it doesn't tell you is how we get there.
Go to Denver Airport.
Well, okay, now let's get on let me ask you some spiritual questions about holding the love vibration and making the shift and shifting from a carb. I've heard that for the first time in the universe, the people are shifting the same time as the planet. The pole shift, and we're shifting from a carbon base to a silica base, and that we need this Planet X to come by to clean Fukushima and all our bombing, and it's supposed to this burning is a cleansing, a rebirth, like a phoenix from the fire, and then our spirit is eternal, of course, and we're making the shift into the higher dimensions, which aren't affected by these. So, what do you think about all that?
Well, I call it exception logic. On one hand, you have people that are saying, hey, I'm going to be raptured, so it's not my problem.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you got people saying, one morning we're all going to wake up and start singing, let's buy the world a Coke.
Yeah.
Okay? It's all exception thinking.
It is.
I look at this and I go, we got this freaking ugly rock coming at us, and it's going to leave a mark, folks. Okay? Yeah. Now, spiritually, though, there will be a profound change.
Yeah.
But it's not in the way that people think. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be this, I hit it's like I played the slot machine and I got the big one on the first quarter. Okay? No. What's going to happen is that when Planet X comes through, the most important thing is that it's going to destroy the control mechanisms of the elites to enslave us.
Right.
And we're going to have a period of time when we're dying in vast numbers, but we're going to die as honestly free women and men.
Right.
Okay? And that's going to be important. We're going to be spiritually transformed. And this is going to happen in two different ways. First off, there is going to be, when you're reducing the population by 90% or so, there's going to be a lot of near-death experiences, shared death experiences, and major out-of-body experiences. Now, I use the term major. What does major mean? It means you see yourself as an eternal being. When that happens, you're profoundly changed. Ask somebody who's had a major experience, do you fear death? They'll immediately say no.
No. Yeah.
Okay?
I don't either.
I don't want to die badly. Nobody does.
Mhm.
But I don't fear death because I've been to the other side.
Me too.
Okay. Second is it changes them. They go from a material focus to a spiritual focus.
Mhm.
And third is it changes them from service to self to service to others.
Yes.
So what is going
Excellent.
to happen is those who survive are going to have these major experiences that are going to profoundly change them. Now, at the same time, this will occur, and I document this in my book, Crossing the Cusp, in very good detail. So if you want to understand what is going to be the single major cause of death during the tribulation, which will be the pole shift, that's explained in Crossing the Cusp. And there I get into what the ancient Egyptians call the Great Winnowing. What the ancient Egyptians tell us is essentially, from a spiritual standpoint, when this pole shift event happens, whatever is in your heart is going to be magnified 100-fold. Now, there's only two absolute human emotions, fear and love. If you're on everything else in between is one shade of one or the other. Imagine you're standing in a paint store. There's a black chip on one side, a white chip on the other, and every imaginable color and pastel you could have in between the two. But somewhere there's going to be one chip that has just a little more white than black, and one that has a little more black than white. When you're on the black side of the equation, that is the path of oblivion. When you're on the white side of the equation, that is the path to Creator. And for those people who have fear in their hearts, they're in service to self, they're the ones that are saying, I'm in it for me and my own. They're typically in ego, which is a very dangerous emotion. People in ego are the ones that say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I know I got to be the boss. All right? Those people, what will happen is that when the great winnowing occurs, according to the ancient Egyptians, the fear that is in their souls is going to well up to such an immense level that they're just going to flicker out like a dying bulb and gone. They're going to die of fright. I think the Bible even has a reference to that as well. So that's what happens to those. And that is going to be, the universal cleansing of people who live on the dark side. Those who live on the white side, the light side, the ones that are walking the path for God, okay? Completely different experience. Now, who is that? Is that going to be somebody who's sitting in the pews, reading the book and singing? And no. It's more likely going to be an old grandmother, pulls together some orphans. Kids, let's hold hands and sing nursery rhymes. I love you. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through it. All right? And during the pole shift, they're singing nursery rhymes. That is love.
Yeah.
That is service to others. These are the people God wants.
Yeah.
Okay? So, yes, there's going to be a cleansing by fire. It's going to happen. But it's not going to be any of this, I hit the jackpot on the first pull of the handle logic. Sorry for those of you that have bought into that. I know it probably just chaps you to no point, but that's just the way it is.
This was really an excellent interview. Thank you very much. It's 1 o'clock.
My pleasure.
Thank you. I look forward to talking to you later, and
Hey,
we'll keep in
Masters,
touch.
we loved it, man.
Thank you.
One little thing about Bible code. You seen the code about the Planet X?
Yeah. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think we put one up on, check on our site, the most recent Signs article. We have a new Torah code or a Bible code. Ooh. I mean, we've got some good stuff on what's coming out of Israel. Check it out on our site, yellowzip.com.
Does it give a date?
Wait. What was your website that you want to check it out on?
YOWUSA.com, or you can also go to marshallmasters.com.
Okay.
And the year 5776, which ends this September.
Well, we see you on the other side, brother.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the backside.
Dan Winter?
No, Dan, you go for it. I'll be back when you do.
Okay, after. Okay, and that's when I'll eat. Bacon, when you're done eating, then you do. Bring bacon and avocado. Okay. It's okay, don't get bacon. Don't get bacon.